Welcome back to Womansplain, the podcast where we decode the trends shaping our world. I'm Sola.
And I'm Brooke, and in today's episode, we're venturing into the future of consumerism. We're talking celebrity-led brands and the ever-evolving role of social media in shaping consumer trends. So yeah, let's dive right into a phenomenon that's kind of shaping the consumer landscape, which is celebrity-led brands.
Yes.
Which obviously we've seen everywhere. From Skims to Rhode, Fenty, Goop. I think everyone pretty much has their own celebrity brand, especially in the beauty and luxury industry. And we're seeing, a trend where celebrities aren't just endorsing products, but they're creating and leading their own brands. And that's across, even athletes to celebrities to influencers.
Yeah, no. And these aren't just side hustles. They're making these businesses into billion-dollar in businesses. Like Skims is a $4 billion business. Kim built that from ground up. Of course, she had a lot of resources, but, she's a businesswoman. She's been thinking about this, thinking about the strategy. They're leveraging their followings and their influence. So, what is really driving this trend? Like, I think we should really talk about, what is driving the growth of these celebrity-led businesses, because I feel like it has started a couple of years ago, maybe, or like maybe it's also the rise of social media that's bringing it up to our attention. But is it just a fan following? Is it just the attraction that fans feel towards the celebrities that make us purchase these products? Is there something deeper? And we'll definitely explore that in depth today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think I think there has been some remnants of it earlier. I think about like Jay-Z, like he started a lot of companies that was earlier, like Tidal, etc. I think about like the music industry. There are successful musicians who've started their own record label, and that's existed. But especially just generally, athletes and celebrities traditionally have made a lot of money just through endorsing brands and endorsing products. Everyone from like Tiger Woods to the Kardashians made most of their money through that way and then recently they decided to kind of start their own brands too. So I wonder really what kind of pushed them to do that, given how stressful it can be and how difficult it can be to start your own company. It must have just been increased access, as well as I think maybe more of an entrepreneurial spirit, which is kind of an interesting thing to think about too. And there's also been a trend of even celebrities starting their own funds, which is really interesting too. So obviously
we'll
I think
into that.
Exactly. I think the most probably well known is Kim Kardashian's private equity fund, Sky
Partners,
which is so awesome that she literally started with like an ex-investor from Carlyle, which is great. I would say this, like what the Kardashians have done well is they have chosen really good partners. I think Kylie did that too with like her lip brand that did really well too. Out of post her lip kits, she even sold it for huge valuation. It actually is doing worse now. I've heard that maybe she's trying to buy it back. But when she sold it for it was at its peak, like a $1.2 billion valuation. Wow. And I think it's really interesting. And, Gwyneth Paltrow is also raising her own venture fund, which is interesting because previously Goop was invested in by, a venture fund that really only did celebrity-led and consumer brands. And they've expanded just to do general consumer now. But now she's actually raised her own, I think, $75 million fund.
Wow.
Which is super interesting too. And, kind of expanding of that, level of just profitability. Which, I don't know, is interesting. So we'll see where that goes. But kind of like, how do we think these celebrities who are successful, transition from content creators to brand moguls? And, what do you think really made them able to kind of capture the hearts and wallets of, consumers and millions? Why do we think one is more successful than the other?
Right. I think it has to first come with having access to capital, of course. I think once you have that network and the pockets of capital through LPs and other investors, you have that foundation to start something like that. But beyond that, I think the biggest thing is having that following fan base. We talked in another episode about social media and luxury and how in the beauty industry, when someone says use this product on TikTok, it's sold out in Sephora. So that influence is definitely very immense. So I think that's a big thing there. I I don't know. What else do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think like loyalty and having that influence where like, you know, some celebrities or influencers don't have that level of engagement, which is really interesting. And I think it's also being able to actually really translate being just an influential person who can be an influencer or celebrity to really running a business. And there have actually been examples of failures too, especially in the influencer cases. You know, I think Something Navy, that's a huge one.
That's a huge one.
Look, you know, Ariel, she's obviously like one of the OG influencers. She was probably like began, you know, kind of like content creation. She started with a blog in 2009, became super, super successful and made millions. But and she thought that she could really translate that into a clothing brand. And originally it did really well. You know, it made, I think, $32 million of revenue in 2021. It was valued at $100 million. It launched during the pandemic, still was able to do well. And then in 2023, it sold for $1.
That's insane.
Which is crazy. And there were, you know, a lot of different reasons, like what have been said that the company failed. Some said it was the CEO's fault. Some have said that her husband was embezzling from the company has been a rumor. He has also been attacked by the SEC for insider trading violations, potentially, and he's being investigated. Some have said too that there was just issues paying vendors. And I do understand that, look, clothing is really, really difficult business. It's low margin. It's high turnaround. There were issues with supply chain and manufacturing post-COVID, especially if you are, you know, shipping and manufacturing out of the country, which is a lot of times the only way to do it. And it's hard to kind of be a startup-ish clothing brand without, you know, channels of production. But it's really like, just because you're a successful influencer and a successful celebrity, it doesn't mean you can run a company. And it's interesting. But like there's obviously examples of super successful ones who have done it. And I think a lot of it, at least in the Kardashians, I think Gwyneth Paltrow too, and a lot of these other companies, it seems like they haven't run the company themselves. It seems like they've gotten the kind of the right partners and expert.
And I think like just taking a step back, looking at Something Navy, starting from her journey, you mentioned that she had a blog in 2009 when, you know, influencing wasn't a thing. So she was like one of the OG fashion bloggers, just blogging about her outfits. And then the clothing company came after that. So I feel like a lot of it was she got a lot of fame and following and she wanted to translate that, but she didn't have a business mindset and didn't really know how to translate her fans into actual consumers.
For sure.
I think we see that a lot in these companies that do fail. And they really bank on just their personalities or, I guess, status to translate their fans into consumers. And it's really difficult if you don't have that genuine connection, if you're not authentic, if you don't know the products that you're selling, if you don't know the consumer base, if you have a different consumer base than the products, there's a lot of things. And I think it's really important for, you know, a first-time founder or an influencer or anyone really looking at starting a business to really understand the product market fit, their own network, and see if there's that synergy there.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And, you know, I look at too. Just, you know, I think another example of this is maybe We Were What, Danielle Bernstein too. She has, you know, she has her own clothing company as well. And, you know, I don't know exactly what it does or how well it does, but she seems to sell decently well.
I have a lot of her stuff.
I have a lot of her stuff too. It's cute. Honestly, it's super cute. It's affordable. Especially her swim is awesome. I love her swim. It's so great. Her athletic too. And I think she actually does a really good job of selling things that are affordable and basic and like really, I think, what her target likes. But I mean, originally she was selling things into Macy's and she actually got pulled out. Her clothing brand got pulled out of that, which was interesting based on kind of some scandals she had. Which is also a risk being an influencer where your entire monetization, your entire currency is your reputation. And I think sometimes celebrities, like, they're more general, they're athletes or singers or dancers, whatever. They have another skill set that can kind of cover up their reputation.
That's a good point.
Versus influencers, their entire influence is based on their consumers liking them. That's really hard. And they have no other sort of, you know, I guess, base to base off of. And it's hard to really maintain that loyalty. And I think like if you make a mistake in that business or you're doing something that maybe you're having issues with customer service, you're having issues with shipping, it can really torpedo your business since it's all based on your influence. And that can obviously just continually kind of destroy your entire business. And so it's interesting. Like, I don't know if maybe I'm assuming based on kind of the failure of her clothing brand, if like Ariel's really hurt in other ways of monetization. And I wonder that if that's hurt her partnerships or her affiliate marketing or her other revenue streams.
I'm sure, yeah. I used to see her TikTok videos a lot, but I
don't anymore.
I don't really, and I don't know if that's my algorithm. Or
no, or like maybe it's also, I mean, I always think maybe it's part of the platform's algorithm too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I have read a lot where influencers think that, you know, obviously, like, especially, for example, when Instagram came out with Reels, there's a lot of theories around influencers that Instagram was really, really pushing it. And if you didn't make Reels, you were actually getting, like, really fucked.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
And if you do post it, you get extra points or whatever.
And you get, like, posted, like, better, and you get way more engagement, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And just kind of, like, really messed up that influencers don't have, like, really their own control over their platform.
Yeah. And I think that's the case as with We Were What, as we talked about. I think there were a lot of allegations, and I don't really know what
me neither.
truly happened.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of the small designers, local designers. A lot of them were minority founders who, you know, have said like, "Oh, those designs look very much like mine," and because she's an influencer, because she's so active on social media, I think that's the reason it blew up.
Yeah, which is crazy. And like she didn't even, and it's kind of like the court of public opinion where she couldn't really defend herself. So it's really hard. I think it's just really challenging to constantly maintain that level of loyalty over such a long period of time. And starting a brand based upon that is a hard thing to continue.
Yeah.
Because like if your own reputation tanks, your business tanks too.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just like, you know, it's hard because you can build, it's like whatever that quote is, like you can build a reputation for 20 years, get destroyed in 5 minutes. And it's true. And especially in like cancel culture today.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But like, yeah, and I guess that's a good transition of just, you know, the kind of the colossal influence of social media. You know, these platforms aren't just, you know, sharing content. They're obviously super powerful trend centers. And like the coquette aesthetic, the mob wife aesthetic, the quiet luxury aesthetic.
I love.
And I think that's really interesting too, of like how these trends blow up and go viral. Like now, like the mob wife aesthetic is no, even though I feel like I've been doing mob wife since 2013.
You definitely, you have.
I'm like, great, like all black. I'm like fur coats.
Exactly.
I'm like, this is all I want. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
And yeah, and I think like, and that's also kind of shapes, you know, food industry, entertainment, lifestyle choices, and like how do brands even kind of keep up with this ever changing, you know, landscape?
Yeah. I mean,
it's crazy.
Talking about food, I feel like there's a lot of celebrity led alcohol brands.
Tons.
Like Kendall has 818.
Yeah.
Kendall, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Which I think that's another side of maybe the downside of influencer led brands. We talked about like influencers and their character kind of affecting the success of a business. But I honestly like hate 818. I think it tastes awful. And
you're a tequila girl.
And I'm a huge tequila girl.
Martinis, so I mean, hey.
Exactly. Also, espresso martini tequila. You heard it here first. I started doing it in 2021, and now it's a thing. So
I know it is a thing. You started a trend, girl.
I did.
And they actually have a name now, like something. There's like a different name for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't even think of it, but there's a different name.
Oh my gosh,
I've seen them like on menus, and
no
it's like,
way.
Yeah, it's a different.
I should have coined it.
You should have coined it.
I remember when I first like asked for it, the bartender was like, "What?
What a weirdo!" Yeah,
and I'm like, I just don't want to like mix alcohol tonight. Like I've never had it. Like let's try it,
and it's great. No, seriously.
Yeah. But anyway, 818. I don't know like who does the manufacturing and like the whole science behind it, but I don't think it's good. Like I don't think people that I've talked to like it as much. So like that's like another way of I guess a company having a success depend on something that's kind of out of their control and like their fandom.
For sure.
So like the actual product versus like George Clooney's tequila.
Oh yeah.
Like the OG tequila that we always drink. Why am I blanking? Casamigos.
Yeah, most interesting man in the world. Is that the Casamigos? It's Casamigos. Yeah.
I think. Or no, Casa Azul. I don't know. One of those two.
One of those. Remember George Clooney's?
No,
it's
Casamigos because Casa Azul's like the big one.
The big one.
I love that. I honestly didn't know that it was by George Clooney.
Me neither. I mean, 50 Cent owned Vitamin Water.
I did not know that.
Which was super random. That was back in the day.
Wow.
And they like did really
trendsetter.
And that was like I mean, that was like at his height. So I was like, I remember because I don't know if you probably watched Gossip Girl.
Yes.
But like in the second season, when they go to the white party, and it's like a vitamin water party.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like 50 Cent was like, that was like his whole thing, like the product placement. He did really well in
the
that.
Hamptons,
he made a lot
it
of
was
money.
like
Yeah, and he made a lot of money
East,
with vitamin water. Not alcohol, but a drink, which is really interesting. But it is different because I think just traditionally even at that point, like athletes and celebrities would just sponsor things like that and they would make a lot. You know, I don't know if you watched the movie Air, but it was about like Michael Jordan and how he made like him and partnering with Nike and how he was the first celebrity that basically got royalties from the sales, and that became like the new trend, and he made so much money off that, and so did Nike, and that became like the new trend based off that, and that was enough for celebrities at that point. But then I guess like just celebrities having the opportunity to connect with their fan bases on a different level with social media has allowed them to capitalize even more.
Yes.
But it's tricky. It's hard.
Yeah, there's a fine balance.
There's a lot of downfalls. And you know, like obviously Hailey Bieber and Rhode.
Yes.
And like the story you told last episode, super interesting how they sent you, you have obviously a food blog and everything, but even they sent you kind of consumer samples.
Yeah, strawberry glaze.
I know, strawberry glaze, it's great. And I think like, I mean, I like Hailey a lot. I think she's awesome. I think she has a great reputation. But she wasn't like super well known before she married Justin.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember like there was that point in time, like maybe a year ago, when there was a whole like Selena versus Hailey situation. Remember that? I think it was a year ago. I was in LA just visiting my friends for the weekend. I love Erewhon. So I went to Erewhon. I was like, I want the Hailey Bieber smoothie because that's like the strawberry glaze one that is really known for like being the Hailey Bieber smoothie. And that was like the exact point in time where that feud was happening. And so the lady at Erewhon was like, oh, we don't call it that anymore. Like Erewhon told us not to call it that. It's called strawberry glaze. And I was like, that's so interesting that, you know, pop culture really bleeds into consumerism. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'll just get that smoothie. And it was the same thing. And I was in LA 2 weeks ago and I asked for the Hailey Bieber smoothie. They had it. It was back.
Oh, it was my God.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought you guys rebranded. They're like, yeah, we did. But like now it's back.
Wow.
Which I thought was so interesting.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I thought what was interesting too is before she kind of came out with strawberry glaze, you remember like donut glaze nails?
Yeah.
Were a big thing. And Hailey Bieber's nails are actually really influential, like with nail trends. Like
they're called Hailey Bieber nails.
They're called Hailey Bieber nails. And that was a huge trend with donut glaze. They even became, I think, cinnamon glaze too.
Oh.
And then she came out with strawberry glaze. And I thought that was so purposeful where I'm like, someone is coining that because like this sort of like dessert glaze like trend and influence apparently I guess really resonated with people for whatever reason. And like I don't know, I think like nail care is obviously that's a big one we should probably dive into.
Huge
I don't know one. Fun fact, the my nail girl,
talk about your nail lady.
My nail girl is literally my best friend. She's amazing. Also does Daniel Bernstein's nails, which is so cool. But yeah, I like honestly, and I'm like a loyalist to her, and I think like that is also a huge
market because like people don't know, like men don't know how much nails are.
No, literally,
like each time is like at least 100 if you
minimum for sure.
You get it like 2 weeks even.
Absolutely.
And people have no idea. That's a huge market.
It's a huge market. And now I feel like there's also like Russian manicures, which are like more expensive. Yeah. And there's like different trends with like the health of the type of polish. And there's also that's like a huge area on TikTok and Instagram of just like nail trends.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And we should do that next time. Honestly, it's also an area of luxury and beauty, which is like totally crazy. And but yeah, I think the general thing is being able to transition really your audience from influencer to entrepreneur. Some people have done really well, some people haven't. Like, I don't know. It's like we ought to like figure out why.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about Selena's brand too. Rare Beauty. I used her contour.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's great.
I also didn't know it was hers.
I know. Yeah. She definitely has a different vibe with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Versus like I feel like with Fenty, it's like very much connected to Rihanna.
For sure.
So I think that's also interesting to kind of look at, like, if celebrities kind of marry their identity with their brands versus not.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Hailey also doesn't really do, like, if you think about Hailey, you don't, like, think about Rhode that much, right?
Totally. And she even, like, I mean, yeah, I think she did put her name in it, though, which was interesting.
Yeah, you're right. That's fair.
Yeah, she put her name in it. But, I mean, it's not, like, her obvious name.
Yeah.
She named it Hailey.
Right.
She didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting the Kardashians don't use their name as much, but maybe that's like also for a reason.
Yeah.
because they're kind of their name is associated with a lot.
Skims, yeah.
And sometimes scandals. So it's
Right.
kind of interesting that she called it Skim and Sky. Like that's kind of a different thing than she could have called it Kardashian.
That's fair.
Or Kim K Fund.
Yeah.
You know,
I love Skims.
Skims are awesome.
I love it.
Awesome. I
And
mean,
they
like
did really well with the product.
they actually did. They really did.
Like,
And it's like affordable.
it's affordable.
It's affordable.
It's great.
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok saying that someone like had Skims on and they were like held up at gunpoint or something, and then I guess maybe they got shot, and then she was like, "Oh my gosh, like thank God I was wearing my Skims undergarment," and she was like, "Thank you, Kim, you saved my life." And I like feel like sales probably would have gone up.
Oh my God,
that.
I'm sure so much.
Right.
Like you can't ask for better marketing.
No.
Better organic marketing does not exist.
And I think she's such a good businesswoman.
yeah, she's fantastic.
Like,
I'm so
no
impressed
matter
with her.
like who she is as a person, like what people say, like I don't really know obviously
that
too
woman
much,
has,
but
like, yeah.
she's a businesswoman.
She's super smart.
Yeah.
And honestly, her mom is like, Chris is a genius. I will say this forever. Like, honestly, that woman took 5 really just not that impressive kids at that point and made them all billionaires. And tailored strategies to them, like literally made them all billionaires on their own, whatever. Crazy. Because honestly, without Chris and without her genius, like, honestly, maybe Kendall would have been a model, but other than that, everyone else didn't really have a lot of natural things going for them. And they're beautiful, obviously, and they're personable, but like conventionally or from a modeling perspective, no. And they've actually changed, I think, the industry in terms of like beauty standards, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I think obviously they have unattainable ones, but at least they're a little bit more diverse.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like talking about consumerism and like celebrities, I feel like we have to talk about Taylor Swift.
We have to talk about Taylor Swift. Did you hear that she's doing a licensing deal for the jacket that she wore at the Chiefs?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Businesswoman.
And it's crazy because I think the woman who made like that varsity jacket that she wore, the woman who made it was like a wife of one of the players. I don't remember, but yeah, they're doing a licensing deal for that jacket.
Wow, capitalizing.
And even like Travis Kelce made like what, $12 million in the sale of his jersey.
Yep.
Crazy.
Like I did not watch football before like what, 3-4 months
I know the
ago.
NFL should have got like, I don't know, Taylor should have gotten a freaking cut in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It's true. But
no, it's true. But speaking of it is, like, she said we can't. But Taylor Swift is, like, probably the most influential.
Oh, yeah. And I think, like, a lot of people, like, recently, I feel like people know how much of a businesswoman she is other than just a singer, which also, by the way, she's a songwriter, too. She's a composer. She's a producer. So she's everything in one.
Everything.
But I feel like before this year, like, a lot of people just didn't realize how talented she was outside of music. And so it's really nice to see, like, who sells out a stadium in nanoseconds. Like, tour for 2 years straight across the world. Like, I literally was on the wait list for the Stockholm tickets, and I, like, somehow, thank God, got them. But who in Stockholm, like, who in Japan, you know, like, she has such good influence, and I feel like if she started a fund, I would, first of all, would love to work there.
I mean, I know. I'm kind of shocked she doesn't have her own brand.
Right. I think it's coming.
I think it's coming too. I think it's coming too. But I think, an interesting one that I like, I mean, something I bought that she just, like, I think, like, endorsed herself was, like, she wears the form bras, like the posture one. Apparently she wears it all on tour. And I was like, apparently their sales went up crazily. But I think if you talk about anything of loyalty, like, Taylor Swift has the most loyal fans. And she's had the most loyal fans for, like, 15 years.
For a long time.
Honestly. And she has not lost them. And it's been pretty crazy. And even though her reputation's kind of gone up and down a little bit, like, now she is so solid, so respected. And she really didn't give up. So honestly, Taylor's the actual queen.
She is.
We gotta do a whole Taylor episode.
Oh, yes.
We have to.
I can talk hours about Taylor.
But I think, like, kind of looking into the future, it's like, you know, what can we really expect? I think they'll probably continue to have more celebrity-led brands, more celebrity-led funds, etc. And I think that'll be really interesting. And we'll kind of continue to see how social media really continues to be just the really driving force behind consumer decisions.
I think so, too. I think a lot of PR and marketing strategies now with even big companies, not just celebrity-led ones, include social media influencers.
Yeah.
Like, if you just look, someone with, I don't know, 10,000 followers probably gets sent something and they make a TikTok about it and that goes viral. So I think that's a huge part of their budget too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the amount of money they make on affiliate links is like just wild. It's really, that's really how they make it. Yeah. Like, you know, because I mean, on TikTok, I guess you make a little money per post or whatever.
It's like nothing.
It's like nothing. It's really like, affiliate links, right?
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I mean, looking into future, we can definitely think more about expectations and engagement with celebrity-led brands. Maybe Taylor will start her own fund.
Oh my God.
I
would literally die to work at Taylor Swift's fund. Honestly, die.
Right.
No, but it's true. It is. It's really crazy. And like, yeah, I mean, I would love if Taylor started her own fund or her own Girl Squad fund.
Oh my gosh, yes.
She should. But thanks so much for joining us on Womansplain. And, you know, we hope that this episode's giving you some insights into the dynamic world of consumer trends. And join us next time. Maybe we'll do an episode on Taylor.
Yes. Stay curious. Keep exploring.
Woo. Thank you. Thanks.